The halls of the ICU were silent, save for the soft beeping of monitors and the occasional murmur of footsteps. It was nearly midnight, and the world outside had gone to sleep. But inside room 306, a quiet act of compassion was about to unfold. Dr. Ryan Cole pushed open the door with practiced care. The air in the room was cool and still, heavy with antiseptic and something else loneliness. In the hospital bed lay Victoria Hale, a woman whose name was whispered with reverence and curiosity. Throughout the hospital, a billionaire, a tech mogul, a recluse, and now, a patient in a coma for over 3 months after a freak car accident left her with multiple fractures and a severe head injury. She hadn't stirred once since arriving. Most of the hospital staff treated her with a strange mix of awe and detachment. Nurses changed her IVs. Specialists dropped by out of obligation. Some gossiped about her wealth, her rumored arrogance, and her cold personality. Too many, she was just another VIP case with private security and a closed door. But to Ryan, she was something else entirely. He approached the bed slowly, pulling on a fresh pair of gloves. Her face, though pale and fragile now, still held an elegance that hinted at the strength she once commanded in boardrooms and headlines. He glanced at the chart clipped to the edge of the bed and let out a quiet breath. It was his turn again. He didn't mind you don't know me, he whispered, voice low and warm, but I'll take care of you like family. His hands moved gently, undoing the bandage around her arm, exposing healing wounds that had once been deep and angry. He cleaned them with careful precision, avoiding even the smallest unnecessary pressure. Each movement spoke of someone who wasn't just fulfilling a task but offering something more: respect, presence, dignity. As he worked, he began to hum a soft tune, barely audible. It was a lullaby his mother used to sing when he was a child, sick and curled up under wool blankets. It came instinctively now, a bridge between memory and care. He didn't know why he did it, but it felt right. It made the sterile room feel less lonely, less clinical. For a moment, it felt almost human. Ryan had always believed that healing wasn't just about medicine or machines, it was about presence. He remembered the way doctors had treated his own mother during her battle with cancer years ago, efficient but cold. That's when he'd promised himself, when he wore the white coat, he would never forget the person beneath the chart. He adjusted her pillow, brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, and checked her vitals again. Everything stable, still no change, but something in him didn't give up. Every night he was on shift, he'd sit with her for a few minutes longer than necessary. He'd talk about his day, about the patients he'd seen, or even just read her a paragraph from whatever book he was carrying in his coat pocket. He never expected anything in return. Tonight, though, felt different. There was a stillness in the air that felt less like absence and more like pause, like the moment before a song begins again. As he stood to leave, he glanced back at her one last time. Rest well, Victoria. I'll see you tomorrow. And with that he slipped out of the room, unaware that beneath her closed lids, the tiniest flicker of movement stirred. No alarms, no beeping monitors, just a whisper of life, a sign that something deep within had heard the lullaby, and remembered how to find its way back. The rain tapped gently against the break room window, casting blurred shadows on the floor as lightning flashed in the distance. Dr. Ryan Cole sat alone at the small round table, a lukewarm cup of coffee cradled between his hands. It was the middle of his shift, and the hospital's usual hum had settled into a low, almost meditative rhythm. Outside, the storm grumbled. Inside, something unexpected was about to surface. Ryan had taken a short break after checking in once again on Victoria Hale. He hadn't meant to stay as long as he did, but something about her presence kept pulling him in. Maybe it was the stillness of her condition, or maybe it was the strange sense that she was just waiting for something, or someone, to bring her back. On the counter beside him sat her medical file, which he'd borrowed to review her long-term care instructions. He flipped through it again, casually scanning for anything he might have missed. Most of it was standard medications, injury reports, prognosis. But then, tucked in the notes section from a previous attending physician, a small detail caught his eye. Hale Foundation has provided prior philanthropic funding to rural hospitals, including Ridgewood Medical, 2017. His eyes widened. Ridgewood Medical. His hands trembled slightly as he set the cup down. But wasn't just any hospital, that was his hospital. The one in the quiet town where he grew up. The one that had struggled for years, barely keeping the doors open. The one where his mother had received her cancer treatment after being told they couldn't afford a big city clinic. Her life had been saved because Ridgewood got new equipment donated, as they later learned, by a mysterious benefactor. Had allowed the doctors to detect her cancer early. It had given Ryan more time with her. Asterisk, he'd never known who was behind that donation. No one had. Until now. Asterisk, Ryan leaned back in his chair, stunned. Victoria Halver. Victoria Hal was the reason his mother had lived to see him graduate from medical school. She was the reason he was even here, in this hospital, wearing this coat, healing others. And now, here she was, fragile, unconscious, and utterly alone on the other side of that kindness. Asterisk, for a long moment. He just sat there, letting the weight of that realization wash over him. All this time, he thought, he was helping her out of duty, or compassion. But it was deeper than that. It was a Circle One quiet act of generosity, repaid without either of them ever knowing the full connection. Asterisk, he stood up slowly, walking to the window, watching the rain streak down like tears from the sky. Everything suddenly felt connected. Life had brought them both to this moment, in this place, for a reason. She had given his mother a second chance. Now, maybe it was his turn to give that gift back to her. Asterisk, he looked down at the file again, heart pounding not from obligation, but from something stronger. Gratitude, destiny, a strange, powerful sense of purpose. Asterisk, he whispered under his breath. You saved her, you saved me, and now, I won't let you go. Asterisk, the storm outside rumbled louder, but inside him there was a common knowing. Whatever happened next, he was no longer just her doctor, he was her lifeline. And this wasn't just medicine anymore, this was fate. The first light of dawn spilled through the tall hospital windows, casting a golden hue across the white sheets and sterile machines in room 306. The world outside was slowly waking, but inside the room, the stillness remained except for the soft sound of Dr. Ryan Cole's voice. Asterisk, he moved gently, his hand steady as he removed the old bandages from Victoria Hale's arm and replaced them with fresh ones. Her skin was warm, beneath his fingers, her face peaceful but unchanged. 3 months, no movement, no sign. Just machines whispering her vitals and the unyielding silence of a coma. Asterisk. But Ryan wasn't giving up. Asterisk, as he adjusted the blanket around her shoulders. He sat for a moment beside her, something pulling him to stay a little longer. He looked at her face, the same face splashed across magazine covers. The same woman who had changed his life without ever knowing it. Now here she was, fighting a silent battle with no one to speak for her but him. Asterisk, his voice was soft, almost a breath. You saved my mum. I just wish someone could save you now. Asterisk, a tear slipped from his eye, surprising even him. It landed, gently on her hand, and then something happened. The tiniest twitch. Asterisk, his eyes locked onto her fingers. Had he imagined it? He blinked. No, there it was again. The slightest curl of her pinky, as if reaching for something she could barely remember. Asterisk, Victoria, he whispered, not daring to move. Can you hear me? Asterisk, seconds passed. Then her eyelids fluttered. Asterisk, his breath caught. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. The monitors beeped their usual rhythm, but to Ryan they sounded like drums. Her lips parted slightly. Her eyes, though weak and unfocused, opened. She was awake. Victoria, he said again, his voice full of wonder, barely holding back emotion. You're back. Asterisk, she blinked slowly, her gaze wandering until it found his. Her lips moved, dry and silent, forming no clear words, but she was present, awake, alive. Asterisk, Ryan leaned closer, gently pressing the nurse call button, but his focus didn't shift. The rest of the hospital would soon respond. There'd be alarms, a flurry of doctors, questions, procedures, but for this one moment, it was just the two of them. Asterisk, her hand twitched again, this time more deliberate. It rested near his. He reached out slowly and let her fingers curl around his. Asterisk. The golden sunlight seemed to grow warmer. Asterisk, Victoria Hale had returned to a world she left behind months ago, and the first face she saw was the one she had unknowingly saved years before. Asterisk, Ryan smiled through tears. You found your way back. A week had passed since that miraculous morning, but the atmosphere in room 306 had completely transformed. The machines were quieter now, no longer the only signs of life. The sterile white walls felt warmer, softer, even the nurses moved differently around the room, as if aware that something sacred had taken place there. Asterisk, Victoria Hale sat upright in bed, pillows propped behind her, her hair brushed, her strength slowly returning. Though her body was still fragile, there was light in her eyes that had been closed for far too long. The woman once known as a silent titan of industry now looked more human, more vulnerable, and more alive than ever. Her private nurse knocked gently and opened the door. "Dr. Cole is here." Victoria's face lit up. "Send him in, please." Ryan stepped in, clean-shaven and in his white coat, but less the doctor now and more the person she had somehow known, even while unconscious. He looked almost hesitant, unsure of how to approach someone whose life he'd quietly helped save, not with surgery, but with presence, with something far more personal. Victoria extended her hand slowly. "Dr. Cole," she said, her voice raspy but strong with emotion. "I asked to see you because I remember something." He stepped closer, taking a seat at her side. "What do you remember?" She smiled softly, tears already forming in her eyes. "Your voice. Every night. You told me about your mother, about your day. You hummed that song, the lullaby. It felt like a thread pulling me back through the dark. And then one day, I followed it." Ryan swallowed hard. "Overwhelmed, you heard me." "I did," she whispered, her voice trembling, "and I held on to every word. Everyone else talked about me like I wasn't there, but you talked to me, you cared, when no one else did." He looked down, emotion building in his chest. Then he reached out and took her hand. "You saved my family long ago. I was just returning the favor." Victoria blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Years ago," he said quietly, "you donated to Ridgewood Medical, the hospital where my mom was treated for cancer. That donation paid for the equipment that caught her cancer in time. She survived because of you. I became a doctor because of her, and that brought me here. To you." The words settled in the room like sacred truth. Victoria's breath caught, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I never knew." He smiled gently. "You didn't have to. But your kindness saved someone's life. I guess the world found a way to bring it back to you." Their hands remained clasped, not as doctor and patient, but as two souls connected through quiet, unseen acts of love, to people whose stories had unknowingly intertwined until now. In that moment, they cried not out of pain, but out of awe, out of the miracle of second chances, out of the beautiful, unexpected way that kindness always finds its way home. The sun was high over the small city park, casting a warm, golden glow over the newly built structure behind the stage. Its modern, welcoming design stood out not because of its size or grandeur, but because of what it represented. A sleek silver plaque at the entrance read, "Victoria Hale Community Wellness Center." Below it, in smaller letters, "Health with Heart." A modest crowd had gathered: doctors, nurses, patients, families, and local officials. Balloons swayed in the breeze. Kids clutched flyers, and an elderly couple stood hand in hand, listening attentively as the ceremony began. On stage stood Victoria Hale, a vision of strength and grace. No longer the reclusive billionaire known only through headlines. She looked like someone reborn, a survivor, a woman transformed not just by recovery, but by meaning. Standing beside her, in a crisp navy suit, was Dr. Ryan Cole, his eyes already misty before a single word was spoken. Victoria stepped to the microphone. "The crowd quieted. 6 months ago, she began, her voice steady and clear. "I was lying in a hospital bed, unaware of the world, unaware of myself. I had no voice, no control, and most people had already given up on me." She paused, glancing toward Ryan, who gave her a small, encouraging nod. But one young doctor didn't. "He talked to me like I was still there. He changed my bandages with gentleness. He hummed lullabies. He treated me like I mattered, not because I was wealthy, but because I was human." The crowd leaned in, hushed. "I came back to life," she continued, "because someone believed in kindness over status. Today, we do the same for everyone." She gestured to the clinic behind her. "This center is for the single mother who works 2 jobs and skips doctor visits, for the elderly man who can't afford insulin, for the child whose only barrier to care is a paycheck his parents haven't received. It's for them and for the kind hearts who will work here every day." A ripple of applause spread, slowly building into a standing ovation. Some in the audience wiped their eyes. Others simply smiled with hope they hadn't felt in years. Victoria turned to Ryan and took his hand. "This wouldn't exist without you." He shook his head gently. "You created this," he said. "I just changed a bandage." She smiled. Sometimes, that's all it takes. Asterisk. As the ribbon was cut and the doors swung open for the first time, the camera lingered on Ryan, his eyes glassy, his smile full. He watched as families entered the clinic, as volunteers passed out welcome packets, as hope bloomed in real time. One small act of care had brought a woman back from the brink. Now, together they were about to bring hundreds more back to life. Asterisk.